Oh, here's Bruce, just at the last minute. Yay, Bruce is here. Hey, Bruce. Okay, Bruce, we just started the broadcast, so we're
okay.
And Jen is volunteered heroically to step in and translate at 11.2.
Splendid. Can I start us with something that I think the group and the listening audience might enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my partner / fiance asked me of this text when we were getting to the island of the misfit toys, and I said, you know, it's a bunch of people who want to get together on an evening in the summer and read some insane account of a traveling of a traveling saint, for which they're getting no kind of college credit. We are the island of misfit toys.
We are.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Never mind. Nobody. You know, the big thing, the best thing about it is nobody else cares, right?
Right.
If they worry about us, they're desperate. Because whatever else we're doing, we're not hurting anybody. Okay, Jen, 11.2.
There was above that spring a tree of remarkable width in its, or remarkable size in its circumference, not less of height, so not less of remarkable height, covered with very shiny birds. And they covered the tree, so much that its leaves and branches could scarcely be seen. When the man of God had seen these things, he began to think within himself and to consider what sort it was, or what the reason was that such a great multitude of birds could be together in one group.
Good.
Is this quidnam, Jen? Is that what sort of thing this is, or just what thing it is? What thing is it? Could it be either?
I was thinking of it like in the question, like, you know, if you want to say like what is the weather like today, you would say quinam est tempestas, and it's what weather is there, like what kind of, but I didn't look it up, so.
Well, the nom just makes it a little bit more like what the hell kind of weather is this?
Yeah, that's sort of how I took it. What in the world is going on?
Right, that's over translating, but that's what the nom means, I think.
Okay.
Before we go on, you translated the birds as being shiny, but presumably what they really are is white, don't you think?
Yes, it's the chalk color, the white chalk.
Right. Okay. I realized I thought you were being facetious, but I thought that other people might not get that. You know?
Oh, sorry.
So these are just partly it's a nice image that they're just very, very white birds. Okay, keep going.
Okay. And concerning this, there was such great misery for him that he was pouring forth tears, with his knees having been rolled forward, so having fallen to his knees. And he was beseeching God, saying, God, the knower of unknown things and the revealer of all the hidden things, you know the anxiety of my heart. I beseech, I pray to your divine majesty that you deign to reveal to me, a sinner, through your great pity, that you deign to reveal to me your secret, which just now I see before my eyes.
Good.
I'm not presuming, I'm not anticipating that from my merits or from my worthiness, but from your immense clemency, pity, niceness.
Right. Is somebody typing or something? Is that what's going on? There's some really nasty noise on the wire, or is that thunder?
No, that I hear it too.
Okay.
That might be me typing.
Okay. I think if you're going to do that, could you mute your microphone? I think if you mute your microphone, you can do whatever you want, but otherwise it's hard to hear. It's just bad tonight because there's a lot of thunder outside, so I'm really I'm missing a lot of these moments. Anyway, great, thank you, Paul.
I didn't. Amidst the typing, Jen, I missed what you did with angustia. Angustia.
Probably just translated as anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess, or the thing that it comes out in eventually in English is anguish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Good. The other thing, secretum, which you translated as secret, which I think is perfectly good, could also very easily, perhaps especially in a religious text, mean mystery.
Okay. Yeah.
Just for the.
The thing I always have to remember is that secretum in classical Latin doesn't mean secret so much as private. We had that in Malchus. Remember, he went off by himself in secret, but it wasn't that. He just went off with his wife privately. But here, right, I think it is either secret, but mystery seems great. Good, Jen. Do you mind keeping on?
Not enough.
Great.
Oh, fantastic.
When he had said these things to himself, within himself, and he had sat down, behold, one of those birds was flying from the tree, and its wings were making noise just like bells, toward the ship where the man of God was sitting.
Good.
And it, the bird, sat on the top of the prow, and it was extending its wings as if with in a signal of happiness, as if to signal happiness.
Yeah, good. That's really good. And to signal happiness is a really good idiomatic.
And it was was looking upon the Holy Father with a calm face.
Good.
I don't know about you. I have to make one of William's context remarks here. How does one tell when a bird has a calm face? I can tell when they don't have a calm face, maybe, but
I'm sure they can be calm. I had a duck when I was a child. It had a lot of emotion.
but wasn't it usually making a duck face or having its bill wide open, squawking about something?
I remember it as having quite an expressive face.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Well, it may also be that, it's been a long time, and I've recreated the relationship with the duck.
Or maybe you were just projecting your emotions onto the duck.
Well, I'm sure I was doing that, but the point is there was something to project onto. It wasn't just. It's not like a bug where they just look the same all the time. Anyway, keep going, Jen. You're doing.
And immediately the man of God recognized that God had remembered, but had listened to, had heard his prayer. And he said to the bird, "If you are a messenger of God, tell me where these birds around me, these birds of yours, are, or for what reason here is a gathering of them."
Yeah, wouldn't you say with unde? Wouldn't you say where they're from?
Yeah, did I not? I'm sorry.
Okay, right. I think that's right, because he knows where they are. Right.
Yeah, no, sorry, definitely where from.
And Bruce sent me a note saying that aut pro quare is just the equivalent of the classical quare. In other words, instead of classical Latin would be just quare. For what reason are they here? And the pro is, I guess, a medieval intrusion or just a medieval variation. Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, typical of a lot of medieval Latin. They're just more words and just a few more words to make it seem probably a little more like the vernacular languages that were most people's native language, probably from the 9th century, maybe even the 8th century, pretty early. Karen Ruff can tell us that. I think collectio could be flock, couldn't it?
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
Is there any particular reason that it went from sunt indicative to sit subjunctive? Like, are they supposed to mean something different? I didn't translate them as though they did.
Oh.
Bruce, that's your question. I didn't either. I just...
No. Because it's not like it's an indirect question.
Well, it is an indirect
question.
question. They're both indirect questions. They should both be subjunctive.
Right, so it should be unde
Tell
sint.
me, right. So, you're right. It's after Nara.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't bother me so much when there's just one and that one's indicative, but when you put them right together as though you knew the rule and then you forgot it, or you forgot
the other way around. It's like, oh my God, wait a minute. It's like I should use a subjunctive here, right?
Yeah.
I don't. It's so easy to be snotty and condescending about medieval Latin, grammar, but that is certainly the way I think of it. Is like they just kind of woke up and said, "Oh yes, I'll throw in a subjunctive just to show that I was educated," even though, And I bet you we could find examples of that in English, where you kind of clean up your grammar halfway through a sentence. Anyway.
And yeah, the other thing is that would be a relatively easy mistake, sunt for sint, for a scribe somewhere down the line to make. In other words, the author may have had sint.
Oh, right.
Or Selmer could have made a mistake. We all make mistakes.
Right.
By the way, hi. I'm here.
Hi,
Speaking of mistakes,
Dave.
I was late. I had trouble getting in, but here I am.
Great to see you. We're
And
we're an embattled few. So it's good to see you.
Yes, there have been thunderstorms around here, but I think they've cleared up. Shh.
The world is just going to think that we're this incredible third world country that's sitting here desperately hoping we don't get rained on and stuff. But anyway, can't be helped.
The internet is a third world country.
Is it?
It feels like one sometimes. It certainly has, violent conflict and all the things you associate with third world countries in the news.
Okay. Never mind. Let's not go there, what we associate with third world countries.
Yeah, let's not.
Right. I had this disturbing newspapers these days. All right. 11 point. Thank you so much, Jen, for filling in.
Thank you, Jen.
11.4, Seagull. And see how loudly you can talk.
You hear me?
Yes,
slightly.
You can louder still.
Okay. And immediately he said, "We are that of that great ruin of the ancient enemy."
Good.
Shh.
Them who we are in association with.
I'm sorry. Could you say that again after said known?
But there should be no sin in them who we are in association with.
I think the way I would take it, this is a weird construction, but not by sinning, right? So that's the gerund in the ablative. So not because of sinning, were we in association, literally in the association of them, right? So we weren't mixed up with them
Because of sin.
because of sin. We were involved in the fall of the ancient enemy, namely Satan. But it wasn't because of sin that we were joined with them. We're just like innocent bystanders in the fall of the ancient enemy.
Or it's possible, in fact, that they're being a little bit more assertive about themselves. We weren't in consensus with them. We didn't agree with them in their sinning.
Okay.
Is there a reason why that couldn't be?
No, I like that.
I took that as meaning, you know, that their standing away is not exactly accidental.
Right. But one of the weird things, though, is that switch to the plural,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's all of the ancient enemies, singular. So it presumably is with, we weren't involved in the sin of him and his little pals.
Yeah, you know, Siegel translated as host, which I think works really well for something that moves from singular to plural that way.
But does it mean host as opposed to, do you think it doesn't mean enemy at all?
I'm not sure.
Remember in Gesta Francorum, we had hostis meaning sometimes meaning the army and sometimes meaning
Yeah.
enemy,
Yeah.
right? I've always found very
Yeah.
odd.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be interesting if it was the host, the ancient
Yeah,
host.
I guess what I'd want to know if it were, and somebody may know more than I do, exactly how the fall of Lucifer is described. What, you know, using what words?
Right.
Is this a standard word? Is it standard to have it singular that just sometimes is understood as plural or not?
Right. Unfortunately, that's a kind of a difficult, tricky topic. It seems.
Oh, brother.
The whole question of I mean, there are these allusions to Lucifer and the fall of the angels and to the fall of Satan in the New Testament, but the story isn't told. So the story's in the Book of Enoch, right? But then there's questions of whether the Book of Enoch was known in the West. And it all comes back to, like, I think one article I read said it was sort of rediscovered 50 years before Milton, something like that. So I don't know how much the fall of Satan was known, other than the very clear allusions in the New Testament.
I think Origen talks about it in the 2nd century, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I assume there is a fairly rich tradition of commenting, partly because there must be, because if it's in the New Testament, people must have commented on it. But Bruce's question about how they put it, I'm not sure. There's also, I think, in the New Testament, it's never actually said that Lucifer and the angels fell together. It's like there's the fall of Lucifer and there's the fall of angels, but not at the same time. So it's tricky. Keep going, Siegel. I think this is too deep for us at the moment.
But where we were created along with the fall of him, together with his supporter or companion.
Yes, plural, companions.
Companions. He touched or maybe inflicted our ruin.
This is where you've got that Latin word order being not intuitive.
Not helpful.
Et nostra ruina is nominative. And also our ruin touched, I guess, right?
Yeah.
In other words, it happened through the fall of him with his life.
Happened.
Our also happened our ruin. And you just have to get used to having that subject come of all places at the end of the sentence.
Okay.
Oh, also before we go on, ubi is obviously, of course, can mean where, but it can also just as often mean when. And I think that's what that probably means here.
Okay.
So good, keep going.
But our Lord is just and truthful. Through that great judgment of his, he sent us in that place.
Good. Sorry, but one again, basic Latin teachery point. In locum istum, of course it can mean in that place, but you always want to translate that in with the accusative into, right, to keep it so that you don't confuse it with in with the ablative. So it's motion towards. He sent us into that place, or we would say to that place.
Okay.
Good.
this I perceive. We were able to see due to the Lord. I wasn't sure about the day because
Wait, before we go on, did you do Penas non sustanemus? Before that?
no, sorry, I missed that one.
So we don't sustain, literally we don't sustain punishments. We're not subject to, and then you get the sentence you translate. The trick there is that hic is really heek, i.e. he, right? I think here, and I should gloss that, I guess, because it causes confusion. In other words, here, possumus videre, praesentiam Dei.
Okay, so here I perceive.
Here we are able, possumus,
We are able to see.
and classical Latin would be presentiam with a T.
Yeah, I took it as a first person's conjugation.
No, it's the accusative of praesentia, meaning presence.
Ah, okay.
So here we are able to see the presence. I guess I should gloss. I just gave the equivalent. I could gloss that. Here we're able to see the presence of God.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we were able to see the presence of God, but at the same time, he took from our mind the companions of the others which were standing.
Let me see. Tantum is a really nasty word, right? Sometimes it's the accusative of tantus aum, but here it means only or just. So we're able to see the presence of God, but only he has exiled us from the association, the consortium of the others who, I guess, who are here, who have stood here, who remain here.
I interpreted that as being who stood, as in they completely resisted the temptation.
Oh, I like that.
These people seemed, or these whatever they are, angels, I suppose, seem to be saying that they didn't fall with Satan, but they were mixed up somehow.
Right.
So it would be like stood in opposition to temptation.
I like that too.
Yeah,
I like that too.
So the basic point is, let me see, what is the basic point? They didn't do anything wrong. But they're kind of in this special place, and they're able to see the presence of God, but not quite as much as the people who really...
Or the angels, in this case.
The real angels, exactly, the truly good. And this points, and this comes back later in the text. There's this weird kind of, and I guess these are angels, so it's not quite the same thing, but there is this weird purgatory thing that's kind of that's hovering over this text in a way that I find quite interesting without knowing very much about it. Good. So you've got some tricky concepts, Siegel. Keep going.
We wander through diverse parts of the air and the firm supporting lands.
I think just the firmament and the land, right?
It's not describing the land?
I don't think so, because isn't the firmament, somebody who's read the Bible more recently, the firmament is...
Yeah, or just the sky. It's like Kylum, heaven or sky.
Right.
As a matter of fact, this Latin word firmamentus is where the translators of the King James Bible actually basically invented the English word firmament.
Uh-huh.
It may have been my 13 times great uncle. He was one of them.
Oh my God.
It's like a shell that contains the stars, or that
right.
Right.
Yeah, and you have the celestial
it's the
bodies
sky,
inside it.
roughly.
Yeah.
Right. I remember as a child thinking it was the land, and of course, like the thing about the duck, may have been wrong as a child. I mean, clearly was wrong about that as a child.
Oh, you mean like firm land, so firm footing,
Yeah,
something
I mean,
like
when
yeah.
if you like, there are hymns that talk about the firmament. I just assumed it meant like the hard stuff, the ground. I can't
They
remember
sang
what
firmament, and you thought God has made the sure foundation.
exactly.
Right.
All right.
So isn't this a both and construction through diverse parts of the air of the firmament, or of both the firmament and the earth, or kind of like between the firmament and the earth, or in both those regions?
I don't know, Jen. Do you think so? I took it just as diverse parts of the air and the firmament and the land.
Yeah, I don't think it's an et, but because I don't think they're dependent on air. I think they're on eris. I think they're dependent on artes.
Yeah.
So you got three genitives depending on diversas partes. At least that's how I took it. So we're wandering around the lower air, the upper air, and the land. Good.
But in Sunday,
Sorry, did you do Sicut Alii? Sicut
yeah,
Alii Spiritus?
just as those other spirits which were sent.
Good, which are sent forth. Good.
Sent forth. But in Sunday we receive such a kind of a body of the Lord, and you see now we bring together this and we praise our Creator. You might have got it mixed up a bit.
Little trouble at the beginning, but this will help us. Sanctis diebus et Dominicis or Dominicis all go together. But on saints' days and on Sundays, we take on bodies, and then here's Talia Qualia, and somebody can explain that better than me, William Turk.
Well, we take on bodies such as the ones you now see. So, actually, Jen,
Such
maybe you
as
can
the one.
explain.
But
We take on talia corpora, these kinds of bodies, qualia, the kind that now you see.
Yeah, it's a compressed expression. It's correlatives, and they're always like that in Latin. You're lucky if you get both of the words anyway, and not just qualia, and not you got the talia, so that's a little better. But you have to add like 10 words in English.
Right.
Or you could just say, we take on bodies like you now see.
yeah, like the ones you see now, and we stay here, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Thanks. Great. Siegel, you want to go on?
Yeah, okay. You, however, with your brothers, had 1 year in two ways or walks. I wasn't sure about how to make this.
So, Siegel, I'm sorry. I didn't hear all of that.
You, however, with your brothers, had 1 year in two ways or two walks.
Oh no, tuus, your.
Tuo. It's not duos, which is it's tuo itinerary, your journey.
Oh, okay.
Tuum iter.
Right. So you have 1 year in your.
In other words, you've been traveling a year.
Okay. Until now, they rest. I didn't know what to make of this. The rest
6 years.
years.
Yeah,
Rest
you
remain.
have to supply ani.
Okay.
There still remain 6,
6 years.
meaning 6 years of tuo itinerary of your journey.
Okay. Were you celebrate the Pascha today is where you will celebrate every year,
Good.
and therefore find and be able in both hearts.
Hold it a minute. Postea means afterwards, right? And afterwards, in Wenies, you will find quae posuisti, what you placed. Really, it should be illa quae posuisti, those things which you placed in your heart.
I'm getting musical interference. Does anybody else hear that?
I
Yeah,
hear
I'm hearing
small
it
quizzes
too.
music. I used to be in a study group for history that met on Hangouts, and we used to get the weirdest noises that there was someone who would be humming, like, and no one would confess to it, and we think it must have been Google crossing wires or something. So this may be the same thing.
I'm not seeing. I promise. All right, keep going. So this is kind of a crucial moment. And just to recap, because it is so weird and so much not what I expected to find in the voice of Brendan, is basically this. There's this 7-year cycle, right? That's now been predicted. They've spent a year going around from island to island, and then for the next 6 years, they're going to keep doing it. And he's going to explain this in more detail. And then then you're going to find what you've placed in your heart, namely, Staccius Siegel, id est peram repermissionis sanctorum.
Promised sanctuary, the land of the promised sanctuary.
Right, the land of, I guess, the promise of the saints. The land, it's not quite, I guess, the land promised to the saints, or the land of promise that belongs to the saints. It's the promised land, anyway.
Is this what's is just terra promissionis what's translated promised land?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Which is just the expression in the English Bible I'm most used to.
Right.
I think, or so it's the land of the promise of the saints, or the saints' promised land.
Right. It's not even clear whether it promised by the saints, promised to the saints.
Yeah.
It's another reason to just call it the promised land. One more sentence, Siegel.
However, when this man had spoken, the bird lifted itself toward the ship and began to fly toward the others.
Good, except de prora with the ablative. Lifted itself up. De prora from the prow and began to fly to the others. Okay?
Okay.
Good.
And the hake there is for hike, so it's when he had said these things.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, when he had said these things, when the bird had said these things.
Right. So it's quite a sweet, chatty bird, as was my duck. Any questions, comments?
Only to say that I hope your duck didn't suffer the fate of my mother's pet rooster during World War II.
Probably not. It was run over by a neighbor who was driving home drunk.
They had to eat him.
Yeah, no, we didn't eat him. We just
bad.
She was killed. Anyway. We digress. I think that's a digression. Jamie, do you want to take over?
Yes, indeed. Cum autem vespertina hora apropinquaset, but when the evening hour, or the hour of Vespers, I suppose, had approached, ceperunt omnes aves quae in arbore erant, and yes, that is quae, but spelled funny. All the birds that were in the tree began, quasi una voce, as if with one voice, cantare, to sing, percucientes latera sua, slapping their sides, which is interesting, but I guess kind of like that.
Right.
Acquidicentis, right.
It's an avian drum and bugle corps.
Yeah, kind of. Atque dicentes, and saying, presumably singing,
Mhm.
Te decet hymnus Deus in Sion, praise befits you, God, in Zion, et tibi redetur votum in Jerusalem. And the vow will be paid to you in Jerusalem. Et semper reciprocabant predictum versiculum, and they kept, and always they were repeating the aforementioned verse or short line, the aforementioned line of music.
Believe it or not, versicle's an English word.
Versicle, okay. Quasi per spatium unius hore, for the space of about an hour is roughly what this means.
Good.
Et videbatur viro Dei, et illis qui cum eo erant, and there was seen by the man of God, and it seemed to the man of God and to those who were with him, illa modulatio et sonus alarum, that inflection of tone and the sound of the wings, quasi carmen planctus pro suavitate, like a song of lamentation for its pleasantness.
Good.
Okay.
Great. One thing, this semper reciprocabant, which Jamie, you translated quite literally, although you started to translate it in a way that comes, I think, a little more naturally in English. And they kept on singing, right? They sang always. Really, it's the meaning seems to be they kept on singing that versicle for more or less in a space of more or less an hour. Yeah.
Right. That's a good point.
Tunc Sanctus Brendanus dixit fratribus suis. Then St. Brendan said to his brothers, Reficite corpora vestra, refresh your bodies, quia hodie anime nostre divina refectione satiate sunt. Because today your souls have been satisfied with divine food.
Our souls. Yeah.
Yes, our souls, that's right. Finita iam cena. Now, dinner having been finished, ceperunt opus Dei peragere. They began to do the work of God. His omnibus finitis. All these finished. Vir Dei, the man of God, et quicumeo erant, and those who were with him. Dederunt corporibus suis quietim, gave rest to their bodies, or rested. Usque ad tertiam vigiliam noctis, until the third watch, or all the way until the third watch of the night. E vigilans autem, then, waking up, vir Dei cepit suscitare fratres suos ad vigilias noctis sancte. And the man of God began to wake up his brothers to the vigils, plural, of the holy night, incipiens illum versiculum, beginning this versicle, Domine labia mea aperies, Lord, open my lips. Finita iam oratione sancti viri, now the prayer of the holy man being finished, omnes aves alicet ore resonabant, all the birds made a noise with their wings and their mouths, dicentes, saying, Laudate Dominum omnes angeli eius, praise the Lord, all his angels, laudate eum omnes virtutes eius, praise him, all his powers, basically.
Good.
Or we won't get into how to translate virtus.
Right.
It's basically untranslatable sometimes. Similiter et ad vesperas per spatium hore semper cantabant. And similar to the evening, they sang for the space of an hour. So like they had the night before, they sang for the space of an hour.
Right. In the
I think it's likewise at Vespers, meaning at the
Oh,
evening.
I
See, I think all of these things are they're doing very much an old-fashioned monastic routine. They in the second line of they opus Dei per agere. They carry out the work of God, meaning they do the prayer service,
right. It's
and
very
since they've
liturgical.
eaten, they're in the evening. Yeah, and then they get up in the middle of the night to do what's usually called lauds, and then and they begin with this versicle, "Aperie Dominem labia mea aperies." Incidentally, is future. It's usually translated in English as a hortatory subjunctive. Then the birds, they sing out. They resonaban. They sang out with their wings and their mouths. I don't know why they have plural wings and one mouth, but maybe that's because
I
they were
guess
singing as if in one voice.
I guess 2 wings to each bird and 1 mouth to each bird.
Ah, yes.
I mean, it's a bit of a confused way of thinking, but I know that we do it in English all the time.
Mhm.
And Chrissy.
Bruce, was the Opus Dei in line 2? You said it was the prayer service, not the Mass in particular?
No, the Opus Dei is how you refer to this cycle of how it was referred to this cycle of prayers. 7 services during the daylight hours, 1 sort of in the middle of the night. All of that is the work of God. That whole cycle, and as probably most people know, the idea is that a lot of the prayers are repeating the Psalms. And at least in the rule of St. Benedict, it's set up on a very precise schedule, so you do all the Psalms every week. Every week you go through the entire Psalter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
This is pre-Benedictine,
Benedict actually says, some of the Holy Fathers that preceded us did it all in one day, so the least we can do is do it all in a week.
I do think this text is very cool in the juxtaposition of this very regular monastic rule with these incredibly outlandish physical situations, which kind of and I think if you look at pictures of the Irish monastery, like if you go on the web and look at a picture of Skellig Michael, which was a genuine Irish monastery off the coast of Galway, I think, or Kerry, or I mean the west coast of Ireland somewhere. It just looks. I mean, you would think that if you lived there, you'd be lucky to make it to the end of the day, and that the last thing you'd spend your time doing is praying. But of course, presumably they in fact regularly followed these rule of Saint Benedict like rules, even when there are only 6 of them in the back of Beyond in this little stone hut, cold and wet and hungry. So it's a very powerful juxtaposition to me. I think of all of this again as an outsider. I think of these services. They seem perfectly at home at somewhere like Vézelay or a major abbey that has this physical presence, but that it's going on in these. In Brendan's case, these fictitious but incredibly remote spots seems to be very powerful and reflects the reality, presumably, of them in their real historically incredibly remote spots doing the same thing.
And without doing too much psychologizing, that these ways of collective life of prayer were invented in and around the Mediterranean and then spread north with Christianity, where it's a little harder to imagine all of this. So I wonder if basically if you were an Irish monk out there on the edge of the back of the Beyond on Skellig Michael, if it wasn't really helpful to you psychologically to have a very active imagination and a very vivid one.
Yes. And yeah, I understand. I would definitely want to keep that routine because doing everything right is basically their connection, I would think, to the rest of Christendom.
Yeah, no, I think it would probably keep you sane.
Yeah.
You got to get up and do the 7 services.
Mm-hmm.
You know, otherwise, why are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's hard to imagine on so many levels. Thank you, Jamie. That's great. So,
Thanks.
Paula, we're at 11.7.
Okay. Let's see. When the dawn had reflected light, they began to sing. Let the splendor of our Lord God be over us by equal measure and length of psalm singing, just as in the matins and lauds. Similarly, at the 3rd hour, 9 in the morning. Sorry?
We need to pay attention to that quotation mark after nos. So what they sang is just what's the rest of that first line, and may the splendor of our Lord God be above us. And they were singing this with.
Okay, I didn't see that next to the notation. Sorry, I didn't see that next to the footnote. Okay. So they were doing this in equal measure and length of psalm singing?
Yeah.
Okay. Similarly, at the 3rd hour, 9 in the morning, this unadorned verse. Sing a psalm to our Lord, sing to our King, sing wisely. At the 6th hour, noon, illuminate, Lord, our wish over us, your wish over us, and have mercy on us. I think maybe pity us might be more direct.
Vultum, face. Vultus.
Oh, your face. Sorry, your face.
Illuminate, right. In other words, shine your face on us.
The sun, yeah.
Mercy on us.
I mean, directly, it's miserere, yes, but it's usually translated as have mercy on us. At the 9th hour, 3 in the afternoon, they sang, Lo, that good and that pleasant thing the brothers to have in one.
Habito, to dwell.
To dwell in one. Oh, right, okay.
Right. Behold, what a good and what a joyful thing it is for brothers to dwell in one.
Okay, so there's an implied S there.
Yes.
Yeah.
After Jocundum.
Okay.
Yes.
That day and night, the birds reported praise to the Lord.
I'd say rendered praise, right? They
rendered, I wasn't sure if it was rendered or reported or brought back or.
And that's ita, not ista. Thus, day and night, the birds rendered praises to God.
Okay. Then St. Brendan, right up into the 8th day, refreshed his brothers in the feast of Easter. Or with the feast of Easter?
We're actually not sure. O'Meara takes it as with the feast of Easter. At least that's how he translates it. And John O'Meara is a very distinguished medieval Latinist, so I take everything his translation is a very thin-looking book. It doesn't look that scholarly, but there's a scholarly presence behind it that I don't discount at all. But Bruce wrote to me and suggested either that it's an ablative of time, right, on the feast of Easter, or possibly specification. That's how they did it. He refreshed them. Well, how would you do specification?
In accordance with.
In accordance, right? In accordance with. Or you can just stick with O'Meara. Where he really does take it as an ablative of means, refreshed it by means of the feast of Easter, which makes sense to me too, right? But I guess it does.
Well, I think I can see what he means because there's no in, and I'm always a little wary of putting an in to give time, an ablative of time, because even in medieval Latin that I've seen, they don't do that.
That's the standard construction for ablative of time when is no preposition.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah, I'm just where I said I didn't say you can't do it. I just said I'm wary of just automatically doing it when there's another possibility.
I thought about the ablative of means, and the trouble is, it's not. I mean, if you wanted to say God refreshed them with the feast of Easter, that would make sense to me. But that Brendan did it.
I suppose since Brendan is kind of in charge, you could imagine him, kind of handing it out.
That seems to me that seems wrong. But what do I know about what monks did?
I'm inclined to agree with you about that way.
They're just. It seems kind of arrogant for him to be, as Jamie says, for him to be handing out, here, you may now partake of the feast of Easter because I say so. Now, I'm sure that the monks were in fact, an abbot was in fact a figure of authority, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking sort of distributing it. I guess I have the mental image at my church, the elders that kind of they're elected and govern the congregation, and they hand out the communion bread and the wine and grape juice. We have grape juice.
Yeah, but I can't believe they would ever say,
right, that they, right, but if you were writing carelessly, it could come out like that,
right.
I suppose.
Yeah, but I just think the ablative specification certainly works. It gets around that problem, and of course the ablative of time totally gets around that problem.
During this period and in this monastic tradition, the abbots did have absolute authority over the other monks.
Sure.
And even to the point of being able to give them communion.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes up to quite late until about the 12th century.
Right. But even giving communion to someone, which after all is what priests do, is giving Easter to somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just seems to me. I can't even wrap my head around that theologically speaking.
Festivitas. I mean, would you use that to refer to the actual elements of communion and use reficio for that? That sounds horrible.
Yeah, I took it as kind of the whole festive season.
Yeah, I kind of took it in light of there's a lot of food imagery afterwards. Immediately in the next few paragraphs, and so it seems to me that the feast and food are kind of tied very tightly together in the subsequent paragraphs.
Right.
Does that word refer to food in a metaphorical or literal sense, festivitas?
Not normally, no, but I'm just saying in the subsequent paragraphs, I mean, they keep talking about food and drink and festival, and they're very closely linked in this particular passage.
Sure, but that wouldn't mean he was doing it by means of the holiday. I don't know. I find the idea of an ablative of means there very strange.
All right, let's move on. We may have more questions than we have answers. So 11.8. Keep going, Paul.
Yeah. Okay. And I did 11.9 and 10 if we want to fill in the goal. So unless somebody else wants to pick it up. With the days of the feast thus concluded, he said, we accept from this fountain a tribute. I'm too sure of that.
Well, sustenance. We've had this before. It's neuter plural. Supplies, sustenance. And don't gloss over accipiamus. It's not accipimus, which would be we accept.
Oh, let us accept?
Let us accept.
Okay. By which even now this way I was confused. Even to the way this was not a work for us. This wasn't our work.
Well, remember, there's this idiom, and this is classical Latin too, right? Opus est mihi means I have a it's necessary for me to do it, right?
Yeah.
And then quia means because, usque up to this point, and then modo kind of means lately, right?
Right.
Up to this point lately, it wasn't right for us. to take supplies from this fountain.
Okay, nor to wash our hands and feet.
Nisi, right? Unless
Oh, except to.
to wash.
Okay,
In other words,
okay.
we're not supposed to be drinking it. Up to
Right.
that point, we weren't supposed to drink it. It was only okay to wash with it.
Okay.
Okay?
Right. Okay. These things said, lo, the aforementioned man, with whom previously they were 3 days before Easter,
Good.
who shared out these paschal foods.
Good.
I don't think Elias agrees with Alimenta Pascalia. I think it's to them, or to those ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Shared out to them these paschal foods. Came to them with his boat full of food and drink. With all these things taken away from the boat, in the presence of the Holy Father he spoke, saying, now, I know that we just did verse and verse. I translated viri fratres as mighty friends. Mighty brothers, sorry, mighty brothers.
It just means men, my brothers. Maybe I should.
Men, my brothers?
Right. Maybe I should put a comma after weary. Like it's like men, brothers, or I don't know.
Men, brothers,
Men,
friends,
brothers.
Romans, countrymen? Okay, I was wondering about that.
Anybody else got it? I mean, otherwise it's just man brothers, which is, let's face it, redundant.
Yeah, it sounded like man cave or something.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it makes sense though. Weary, men, brothers.
Yes, or like men, my brothers. Because Latin often omits, may in that kind of situation. So
Right.
I think that would be a more idiomatic way in English to begin this sort of speech.
Yeah.
Is it maybe evocative?
Oh, it's definitely evocative.
Okay.
Both are definitely evocative.
Yeah. Here you have sufficient enough, even until the day of Holy Pentecost, or until the Holy Day Pentecost, strictly speaking. And you should not drink from this fountain.
Good. Remember that, just to reinforce that, remember that this is the normal way to make a negative imperative in Latin, in classical Latin, right? Nolo in the imperative plus an infinitive. So nolite bibere is literally just don't drink.
Don't drink.
You can get fancy if you want to, but the basic Latinist in me just wants to say this means don't drink.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Strong indeed it is for drinking.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I was not quite sure how to do decom vobis naturam Elias. Concentrated nature.
No, decom is just the future of deco.
Okay.
It does look like it agrees with naturam, doesn't it?
No, it does, but it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Okay, that's what I was wondering about it, because it looks as if it agrees with it, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
You have to remember, the Romans only have about 3 endings, right?
True.
Words end in A, UM, AM, O. That's pretty much 50% of the ending. I'm making this up. But that's like that's a whole lot of endings, right? I find that it's the single, deep down, it's the single most problematic feature in Latin, right? They've gone and had an inflected language, and then they got really cheap with the inflections, right? It's just much better to have lots more inflections so you can tell the difference. like a neuter and a nominative. That would be a really good thing to be able to tell the difference, right?
Well, we should talk. I mean, Latin's ridiculously easy compared to English when it comes to spelling and grammar.
English is perfect and wonderful and logical, and Latin is just weird and unintuitive.
Yes, English is so logical.
It's the language in which God wrote the Bible with the help of Jamie's great times 16.
Exactly.
Darn it.
For Jamie's ancestor, it's good enough for me. Back to decom.
Actually, not my ancestor, my ancestor's brother.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
that's
my
an
ancestor spoke
Your
English, I'm
ancestor's
sure.
brother is an ancestor. I feel sure of that.
So was it like the said nature to you of this?
I will tell
you. I will tell you the nature. I will tell to you the nature.
Okay. Whoever will drink from this
Mhm.
immediately rushes over him asleep,
Good.
and he will not wake even while 24 hours are completed.
Good.
So I'm like, even until 24 hours are completed.
until.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
While he should remain outside the fountain, he will have a sleep.
Wait a minute. Not remain. Mono means to flow.
Oh, while the fountain flows?
Right. Monet. Remain would be monet.
Okay, there are 2 copies of somebody here that's never been here before.
You know, isn't that weird?
Now there's 1 copy. I think it might be because the link was posted publicly so that I could get to it. But
well, I
I'm
don't mind.
yes, I don't mind, but
You
Someone
want,
with a very
you want
nice
to be
icon.
here.
It's a very interesting icon.
mhm.
We're not saying any state secrets. It's public on YouTube, so
Right. Yeah,
That's true.
We got nothing to hide. So in fact, we should proclaim from the rooftops that monot is mono, first conjugation to flow, mono manare. So
Okay.
when water flows
And we have to supply aqua again.
right,
Which is
for us
Mhm.
outside of the fountain, when the water flows outside of the fountain, habet saporem aquae et natura.
Okay. So while the water flows outside of the fountain, he will have sleep.
It will have
It will.
the flavor, the sapor,
Oh.
and
not
the
not sopor, not sopor. Since we just saw sopor, that's
right.
confusing.
No, I
Yeah.
pick up that with yes, sapor is flavor,
Okay. It will have the flavor of water and nature.
and the nature. Well, the flavor and
Flavor
the
and nature of water. Okay.
So the point
It'll
is,
just, in other words, it'll just be plain old water once it starts going down the stream. It does this screwy stuff when it's fresh out of the spring.
exactly, it's a miracle mystery lake.
Personally, I think the water is just poison.
Well, some of the people who are busy hunting for like the historical Brendan look for an island with mineral springs, and there's one in the Azores, which someone thinks is what this is. Anyway, keep going, Paula.
Okay. And having accepted the blessing of the Father, he returned to his place.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Okay. No, what?
Absolute, right? With the benediction of the Father, he returned to his place. So this man was blessed by Brendan and then went away.
Okay.
Okay.
Ran away. Okay. All right. So 11.9. Saint
Paula, I
Brendan.
had actually signed up for this section, but if you'd really like to do it, that's totally
Oh,
fine.
did you sign up? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
but no,
Oh,
no,
you
not
go
if
ahead.
you'd like
No,
to
no,
do
no,
it.
no, you go ahead. I didn't realize. I thought you were. Never mind. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Sorry, my
Because,
dog is barking.
No, I only did it because there was a hole.
Yeah, I usually wait and like try to fill the hole at the end. So.
No, go ahead. No, go right. No, go ahead.
All right. So this is 11.9. So Saint Brendan remained in the same place all the way till the 8th of Pentecost. For there was a revival of the song, or for the Song of the Birds was a refreshment for them.
Mm-hmm.
But
I have a question here, which may be.
Bruce, what happened?
All right, maybe it's better at the end of the passage, but that refociliatio, is that spiritual refreshment, or is seeing those birds like getting dinner?
No, I think it just cheered him right up. Not about spiritual, but emotional. I mean, if I had some nice talking bird come talk to me and tell me what was going to happen, I'd feel all cheered up.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like my duck. Her name was Jemima, by the way.
Like Jemima Puddle Duck.
Right, what else would it be called? We weren't very imaginative as children. Anyway, so no, I just think that was a nice little interlude with the birds, so now he's all refreshed. Don't you think? I mean, I'm sure spiritual refreshment comes into it.
Yeah. They were all refreshed, right?
Keep going, Jen.
And on the day of Pentecost,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't the note say that the eighth Pentecost there meant after Pentecost?
Yes.
So is it like happening before?
There's this whole thing about the octave of Pentecost. What does that mean?
I think that means what you said it means. It means the
Pentecost.
8th day of Pentecost, meaning the 8th day, the 7th day after.
Well, maybe we're going back in time.
So we're going back in time? Okay.
Yeah, I think we must be.
I just wanted to check. When the holy man had sung with his brothers, the steward of them came, carrying all the things necessary for the office of the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But when together they had lain down for a meal, the same man spoke to them, saying, "A great journey still is remaining for you.
Good.
Receive from that spring your vessels full and dry bread pieces,
Good.
which you can save for another year.
Mm-hmm.
I will give to you as much as your ship is able to carry."
Good.
So that's another one of those really compressed correlatives where he didn't put tantum, you only put the quantum. Yeah. Cum autem, however, when this had been finished, and I was, is that referring to the boat?
I think that's hike.
Right,
So
it
it's
is
all
hike,
these
but it has to
things
be
that are
feminine
plural.
singular. With
But
the
it's not-
verb is singular?
Unless there's another misprint. Carry on. I'll just check.
When, however, this had been finished, with a blessing having been received, he went back into his own place.
Yes.
Again, he went back to that place wherever it is that he comes from. Which I think incidentally sort of makes some sense out of saying men, brothers, because this guy seems to sort of come and go.
Yeah,
You know, he's out there, he comes in with a boat.
Yes, I get the feeling he's not entirely human.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, sorry, this is a much less interesting point, but Jen, you've picked up another misprint. It's essent.
Okay. That's fine then.
Yes.
When these things have been finished.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so is that good? 11. Should I go on?
Yeah. Sure.
11:10. And St. Brendan, 8 days later, had the boat laden with everything that the aforementioned man brought to him. And he had all the vessels filled from that fountain, from that spring.
Good.
With everything having been brought to the shore, look, the aforementioned bird came with quick flight, and it sat down upon the prow of the ship. But in fact, the man of God recognized that it had wanted to say something to him.
Good.
Good.
Then, with a human voice, the aforementioned bird said, you will celebrate with us the holy day of Easter, and you will celebrate with us that prior time in a future year.
Good.
And where you have been this year on, that's Maundy Thursday, right? Cana Domini?
Is that right? Yes.
Probably, yeah.
Ex-
The meal of the Lord, yeah.
You will be there in a future year on the aforementioned day. Similarly, you will celebrate the Sunday night of Easter, where you celebrated it before, upon the back of Jasconius the whale.
The fact that the whale has a name just gets me every time. And it's kind of a funny name, Jasconius.
What, you prefer the whale be named Jemima?
I think I would.
Bruce or anyone, I got confused about the Domenicam Noctem Paschae. Is that what we would call? Would we call that the Easter Eve?
Yeah, I think
Saturday
that has to be what it means. It doesn't look like that. It looks like the Sunday night of Easter, but I have a feeling it really means Easter Vigil. In other words, when you get up in the middle of the night, and it technically is Easter. It's technically tomorrow.
It's not sunrise yet.
I think that's what it's doing, but it's not so easy to tell.
It's also a little weird conceptually that they're supposed to, because whatever it is, it's very close to Easter, and if they're going to have Easter on the island they're on now, right? But then they're going to have Easter Eve on the whale. I mean, there's not much transition time, not much travel time built into that schedule.
Yeah, there's not.
I'm just saying.
But isn't that what happened? They landed on the whale on Saturday and then skedaddled off and went somewhere else for Easter?
I guess so. I guess the whale can be very close to the island.
I mean, he's a whale. He can swim.
Right, and as long as he does right, and he's a magic whale, so...
Miraculous whale.
Right.
In this case.
Yes, a much better word. Okay, great. Keep going. We're almost done. Jen.
You will also find an island 8 months later, which is called the island of the family of Ailbe.
Elba, I think?
I've never said this out loud. Ailbe.
I have no idea how you say Irish names, so. And there you will celebrate the Nativity of the Lord, which is presumably Christmas.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that one we got. Right.
Okay.
That's great. And family. Sorry.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I was just going to say, family presumably is a modification of the Roman word meaning of family, where it means household/slaves. Family here must mean, what would you say in ecclesiastical terms? The
community. The whole community.
The community.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Community.
One little tiny thing about these vascula. These are actually not vasa, but vascula. They're little containers. And my guess would be in the context here that they're made out of skin. They're little skin bags, because canteens is a better way to keep probably when you're in a little tiny boat, less risky to keep your fresh water in a bag than in a jar.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Canteen. I actually, as it happened, was reading, of all people, so Samuel Eliot Morison, the great historian of New World exploration, has a very short chapter on Brendan and on other Irish sailors, and he says that they were drinking water and wine out of these goatskin bags with the hair placed inside. So the smooth is on the outside and the hairy part is on the inside. And he basically says, you get used to the taste.
Ugh.
But why? Why did they do it that way?
I assume it works better as a canteen. I don't know.
If I had to guess, I would think that the outer side is tougher, therefore less subject to decay.
Ah,
So
that
you'd
makes sense.
rather have the most have the very toughest part on the inside.
I was going to guess that you could grease it up and make it more waterproof.
But then it would stink.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, you grease the outside, and then you'd have the hair on the inside. And anyway, if it's choice between stinky water and no water at all, that's what they take. Anyhow, that's all I got.
It's kind of more like getting hairs in your mouth, but I can kind of see why they would have it inside out, just because you wouldn't want a bloody taste. But
Yeah.
All right.
I don't really know anything about goat skin canteens, so.
No. So guys, John hasn't been able to translate yet.
Okay.
We have to do 2 pages to get to John. Do we want to translate? Oh, and then what happens after?
Well, the next bit is Lucy's, and Lucy's not here.
Lucy's not here. We can push on and try and get to John if we want. If we have more site translation volunteers.
Is John 12.3 and 12.4?
I'm 12.5 and 12.6.
12.6.
Neat.
Or we could just declare victory and John can do his chunk next time. People feeling tired or people feeling excited?
I'm happy to do any of it, but if people want to stop, that's fine too.
I mean,
same here.
Yeah, I also think William said we could do some of it. We can do that. It is.
All right.
Well, we might as well do 11:11, even if we stopped there.
Good point.
So as to finish 11 because it's.
All right, let's do 11:11 and see how we feel. Okay. Anybody want to volunteer?
Maybe John could do it.
Yeah.
I can give it a shot. Yeah.
All right.
And then he gets to translate.
11:11.
Okay, 11:11. So, and when he had said this.
When he had said this, exactly.
Right. Reverse.
And remember, we're talking about a bird.
Okay.
Right.
Right. Reversa. What does that mean?
Reversa est. He
Yeah.
returned.
He returned. Okay.
Revertor to turn back, deponent verb.
Okay. He returned.
It's doing interestingly the same thing this guy who provides all the food does.
Mm-hmm.
The same sentence.
Right, but this is about a bird, right?
Yeah, it's reversa. It's the bird.
So the bird returned in his own place.
Right, but again, into his own place.
Into his own place, right? Accusative. But the brothers, they began to extend. Let's see.
Sails.
They began to extend the sails and to navigate into the ocean.
Good.
And the birds singing quasies that just like.
Exactly right.
Just like, and the birds were singing just like one voice.
Right, as though, ablative then, una voce, as though with one voice.
Okay. Oh, as though with voice. Okay. Ex Audi nos.
So the birds are doing monastic plain chant.
Mm-hmm.
They're very liturgical birds.
Ex Audi nos. So, is that X and Audi? So
Yep.
here out, here
right.
from.
Yes, it's just a more intensive form of Audi. So
Okay.
hear us.
Hear us, God. Salutaris is affording eternal bliss. That's what the note says.
Is that what it says? It really means of salvation, right?
Of salvation. Okay.
It says affording eternal bliss.
Yeah, or
The note.
I think healthful.
Yeah, I mean healthful in the sense, in the spiritual sense, right?
Right.
Salvator is savior, right? So all of those health words in Christian Latin, well, not all of them, but all that whole SALV is obviously gets connected with salvation as opposed to health,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So hear us, Lord, our Savior, our source of salvation.
Right. Yeah. Spiritual health. Right. Hope.
And then this is just vocative,
Hope of all.
right? Of
This
all.
is vocative.
Mm-hmm.
Of all.
And then the
lands.
nominative.
And edges, boundaries.
Right.
Okay. The hope of all.
Right, of all the boundaries of the lands, or all the territories.
Okay.
Yeah. Thenates can actually mean territory, I think, as well as boundary. So it just means hope of all the lands, hope of all the territories of the land.
Every corner of the world.
Every corner of the world. And hope in mare longe.
In the long sea. Or right in.
Right in the.
Is that right? In the long sea.
Why can't it be?
Sorry, what'd you say, Bruce?
What?
It can't be long sea.
No.
Why not?
No.
Because that would have to be mare longo. This is in the sea far off. It has to be adverbial.
Yes.
Oh, you're right. Right.
Right. I didn't catch that.
I only caught it the second time through.
Okay. In the sea far away. Either way, I do think it's a very cool way to end, right?
Yes.
I mean, so Jamie's ancestor put it as follows, right? O God of our salvation, who art the confidence of all the ends of the earth, and of them that are far off upon the sea. And I think for this particular bunch of Christians, ending with that psalm is just really cool. You know, the whole, those are, those in peril on the deep kind of thing.
Yes, because if anyone was ever afar off upon the sea, this is them.
Exactly. All right, guys, I think it's 9:22. I think we should
agree.
My dog is getting restless. We should just declare victory. Thank you all for filling in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being computer literate and all that stuff. So great. So we'll just pick it up here. And if anyone, so John, I will just keep you signed up.
Okay.
If Victoria wants to sign up, she can do that, and the rest of it will just go on as usual. Good. So see you guys next week if you're there. Thank you for joining in and everything, and have a lovely week.
See y'all next week.
Okay.
See ya.
And stay dry.
Bye.
If you can.
Right.
Good night.
Good night. Vale te omnes.
Bye.